senior officials from our department, members of the media. On the 19th of August 2025, I took a bold but very difficult and at the time deeply unpopular decision to place three sector education and training authorities under administration: the Construction Education and Training Authority, the Services Sector Education and Training Authority, and the Local Government Education Sector Education and Training Authority. This intervention was announced less than a month after my appointment as Minister of Higher Education and Training. The decision was not taken lightly. It was a necessary and decisive step to stabilize governance, restore institutional integrity, enforce consequence management, and protect the credibility of South Africa's skills development system. 6 months later, the evidence is clear. The decision was not only justified, but essential. Today, I report to the public, to levy payers, and to the learners and workers this system exists to serve on the progress made. I do so against the backdrop of President Ramaphosa's 2026 State of the Nation address, which affirmed skills development as central to South Africa's economic renewal, and the national budget, which confirms sustained investment in education and training pipelines. Why administration was necessary. The governance failures at each institutions were systemic, documented, but also very serious. The Construction Education and Training Authority, for instance, had accumulated 4 consecutive qualified audit opinions. Discretionary grants commitment of 1.4 billion were outstanding against an annual discretionary grant income of only 500 million, an overcommitment ratio that placed public funds at severe risk. The total commitment balance stood at 2.7 billion. Internal controls had collapsed, litigation exposure was rising, and labor relations were strained. Services SETA had also received 7 consecutive qualified audit opinions, a full 7-year period without consequence management. Its audit committee's task team had documented systemic supply chain failures. A former CEO who had failed to disclose his relationship with an awarded bidder, and a pattern of prepayment for services before contracts commenced. Despite 3 major investigations, not a single official had been held accountable. With regards to LG SETA, which faced findings from a National Treasury forensic report confirming irregular appointment of its chief executive officer and the unlawful dissolution of its audit and risk committee. A criminal case was formally registered with the South African Police Services on 10 October 2025. A protracted dispute with the Auditor General, which compounded by a cyber attack that corrupted financial records and created a material discrepancy of over 1.5 billion, had paralyzed the institution's governance and audit readiness. So in each case, administration was the appropriate and proportionate remedy under the Skills Development Act. And so what has changed since then? The administrators were given a clear mandate: restore controls, strengthen financial and operational management, rebuild stakeholder trust, and re-anchor these institutions in their statutory responsibilities. Let me report on delivery against that mandate. With regards to the construction SETA, Administrator Nkwane had driven a structured 4-phase recovery framework of 35 defined activities across 11 key performance areas, and 23 of these have been fully achieved and 12 are in progress, and not one has been abandoned. A new Chief Financial Officer commenced yesterday, which is the 2nd of March 2026, ending nearly 2 years of acting financial leadership. All key oversight committees, which includes the Audit and Risk Committee, Clean Audit Task Team, EXCO and Extended EXCO, have been reconstituted and are operational. More than 20 internal audit findings in ICT have been resolved. Salary negotiations have been concluded, restoring workforce stability. 7 skill centers projects are underway across KZN, Northwest, Northern Cape, and Western Cape, implemented in partnership with the Development Bank of South Africa as implementing agency. Now, with regards to the services SETA, which is mostly around the financial turnaround and the progress that has been made. Administrator Masoha inherited an institution whose legacy commitments stood at 3.4 billion as at 31 March 2025. These commitments, commitments with some transaction stretching back over 8 years. And by January 2026, this had been reduced to 2.8 billion, which means about 600 million rands had been recovered. A legal and accounting team has classified 1,434 transactions, which is a significant portion of which have been declared prescribed and are candidates of cancellation. A nationwide campaign through national newspapers, government gazette, and the sheriff of the court had served notices on affected parties totaling approximately 2.3 billion. And so parties were given until 28 February to resolve their issues and make representation. And this process is expected to recoup up to 2.8 billion for reinvestment into discretionary funds that belong to levy payers and must serve learners. The preliminary audit, which I agreed with the AG running February to March, is a direct investment in audit readiness. And so an acting CFO has also been appointed, and a process for the appointment of a new CFO and CEO will also be commenced immediately. For beneficiaries, 20,000 internship programs providing 2 years workplace exposure with host employers is operational. Furthermore, Services SETA has entered into a 3-year strategic partnership with Take a Lot to create 20,000 training and job opportunities for unemployed youth, a 1.3 billion bursary fund support 10,000 TVET college students and 5,000 university students. The SETA has settled outstanding bursary payment previously owed to universities and to colleges, a failure that had directly harmed students. The Hawks and Public Protector are also concluding independent investigations into alleged fraud and corruptions. The planned Skills Development Center, which was committed some years back by the president, will now be converted into a mining academy in partnership with the Mining Qualifications Authority, the CSIR, Sekhukhune TVET College, and various post-school education and training sector. 100 million partnership with the University of Cape Town will construct a 5-story facility housing Africa's first research initiative for for skin health. With regards to the LG SETA, Zukile Mvalo has prioritized the implementation of the National Treasury Forensic Report, which was the central mandate of his service level agreement with the department. Disciplinary action has been pursued against the implicated CEO. Also, a criminal case has been opened with SAPS, and the public protector has opened a sector-wide investigation, which includes some of the issues which led to us putting local government SETA under administration. We've also abandoned a protracted legal dispute with the Auditor General, which had itself become a governance liability and has now or should now consider to be resolved. Now, that's that with regards to the SETAs. I must also report on a separate but related governance intervention, which is the College of Cape Town. In October 2025, following a parliamentary hearing at which the Portfolio Committee had disturbing evidence of governance breakdown at the college, I exercised my powers as minister under Section 46(1) of the Continuing Education and Training Act by establishing a stabilization and governance support team. The team was chaired by Advocate J.B. Skosana and included some academics and other expertise. Their mandate was to investigate allegations of maladministration, mediate conflict, and recommend measures to restore government. The team conducted extensive interviews and controlled evidence over October and November 2025. I received the final report on the 5th of February 2026 and shared it immediately with the College Council and the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. The report's findings were sobering, documenting a collapse of governance oversight structures, irregular appointments, and nepotism. The Council's decision to extend a security contract after a court had already declared it invalid, and a deteriorating financial situation which tied to procurement irregularities. The report confirmed that teaching and learning were being compromised, and that students and staff were living in a climate of fear. The college principal, Dr. Hangarai Muswaba, was subsequently dismissed following an independent disciplinary process conducted by the General Public Service Sector Bargaining Council. The team's primary recommendation was that the minister must resolve the College Council and appoint an administrator in terms of Section 46(4) of the CET Act. I've accordingly moved to appoint Dr. Robert Nkuna as administrator of the College of Cape Town. Dr. Nkuna is a respected senior public servant who has served as Director General, most recently in the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. He brings strategic management skill, governance expertise, but also institutional integrity to a task that demands all three. Dr. Nkuna's mandate as administrator is comprehensive, and he will assume all governance and management functions of the College of Cape Town upon appointment of an administrator, a move that deems the council to have resigned. His priorities will be to stabilize operations immediately, commit forensic audit, implement consequence management, rebuild governance structures, and ensure that students can continue their studies without disruption. His appointment is for a period not exceeding 2 years, during which he will work towards reconstituting a new college council fit to govern this important institutions. I welcome Dr. Nkuna and also thank Advocate Kosana and his team for the work that they have done. Our interventions have obviously, in some instances, attracted litigation, and I will not litigate these matters here in this statement. That, I believe, is the function of the court, and we must respect the judicial processes. What I will say, though, is that governance reform cannot be held hostage by litigation. We're confident of the legal basis of each of the interventions that we've made in the past, and where we are being challenged, we are confident that we will also be able to defend the decisions that we've taken. And I think in many instances, courts found that we were in the right straight in terms of the decisions that we've made. Where legal challenges have been brought against these decisions, we will, as I said, defend them vigorously. Every intervention was preceded by documented evidence of governance failure. Every administrator's mandate is grounded in law, and every action taken has been proportionate to the problems identified. Administration, as we believe, is not an end in itself. Its purpose is to learners unaddressed for 7 years, everyone else lose. So the work done in this 6 months has protected and in some cases begun to recover the funds that industry contribute through the skills development levy. And I'm told that in all the three SETAs, those who have interest, including levy payers, industry, and so on and so forth, have now regained confidence around the ability of the three SETAs, the 20,000 internships, various skill centers that are spread across 4 provinces, and a whole lot of other programs which will impact on local government by the LG SETA. And so in the next 6 months, we will consolidate what has been built and prepare for an orderly transition. New accounting authorities will be appointed to each SETA to ensure credible governance structures are in place before administration concludes. Each administrator will prepare a detailed exit report by August 2026 for institutional memory and accountability. A major lesson from this part is that we have to put the right people in the right position for them to be able to do the is expected. We are taking, into just within accounting authorities, as I said, uh, uh, at the College of Cape Town, the Administration Stabilization, the new decisions taken in August 2025, as I said, were never about them. They are about protecting systems that cannot afford to allow to fail. In a country where unemployment, poverty, and inequality remains the defining challenge of our times, skills development is not optional. It is foundational. 6 months of evidence confirms that decisive leadership, strengthened oversight, and ethical governance do work. These institutions are not where we want them to be, but they are unambiguously on a different trajectory. Administration was the intervention that made the trajectory about their credibility, capacity,